There are a lot of notebooks out there, lots of notebook brands, lots of notebook sizes to choose from. For some people, that can be really overwhelming. For me, it's kind of exciting because I've chosen to not choose between them. And I like to use lots of different notebooks, lots of different sizes. I like trying out new notebooks. I like going back to old notebooks that I really loved. And I'm going to try today to share with you some of my favorites and also some new ones that I'm potentially testing out. This video will focus on A5, B6 Slim, and A6 sizes, but if you use another size that you want me to do a video about in the future, let me know what that size is in the comments. I also like to keep my notebooks in covers, folio covers, traveler's notebooks, and that adds a different level of complication because you have to try and figure out what cover will fit on a notebook you have, or maybe you found a cover and now you just have to find notebooks that fit in it. My name is Lauren Fairweather, and earlier this year I released this journal cover with Chic Sparrow. It's called the Fairweather, and when we first released it, it was only in the A6 size, which is a nice small portable size. Today we are releasing more sizes, so that's the B6 Slim. We are also releasing a regular B6, this A5, and the weekly, which is very exciting as somebody who uses the Hobonichi weeks for my work planning. I don't have one of those here to show you, but for that one I recommend only tucking the back cover of your weeks into the weekly folio because the inside front cover has this cool pocket design. It's a little bit wider than the usual narrow pockets in the front of the weekly folio that Chic Sparrow offers. Just keep that in mind. So to get ready for this video, I went through all my notebooks, saw what I had for these three sizes. I was a little short on A5 options because that's a relatively new size for me, so I bought these two Leuchtturms. I have a Hobonichi notebook here that I haven't tried out yet. I've got some Archer and Olive notebooks, some MD notebooks, and we're going to go through them all and I'm going to show you how they kind of compare within each size and show you how they fit in each of these folios because they're all a little bit different. I'm also going to list out some notebooks that I don't personally own, but that I have heard will fit in the Chic Sparrow folios. So if you are looking for a notebook for one of these size folios, you'll have lots of options to choose from. Hopefully you'll find something in this video that looks exciting to you, and at least it's a good place to start. Let's take a closer look at these journal covers, both at some of the changes that we made for the bigger sizes and in the leather variation, because I haven't talked a whole lot about that here on my channel. Here is my original A6 Fairweather Cascade folio in the colorful pocket option. We also offer the matching option, which has, instead of the blue and green here, it's all the same color as the rest of the leather. You can see here that the leather I ended up with on this cover is relatively smooth without a whole lot of character or striations, and sometimes you get something like that. And then the B6 Slim that I got has a little bit of a lighter line here, which is kind of cool. It is leather, so every piece is going to be completely different. The one that you get might not look exactly like mine. Like, see that little dot there at the bottom? There's all sorts of cute character, and this leather in general is very smooth and doesn't have a ton of differences in it, but I think it's fun when you get a piece that has something special like that on it. Now, B6 Slim as a size is about as wide as the A6, but it's taller, as tall as a normal B6. So the pockets on the inside of this one are not terribly different. You can see that there's extra space at the top, but it's the same colors, same pockets, same amount of pockets. And here you can see an example of when the leather turns out to have different character. So I love this lighter line here at the bottom pocket. And then you can see that there are some more wrinkles in the green leather here. And so yours, like I said, might look different from mine. They're all different. They're all unique. And Chic Sparrow is really great because they use a lot more of the leather than some other leather companies do. And for me, that's part of the fun. It's a little bit of a surprise when you get it in the mail. And so this is our largest size at the moment. This is the A5 folio, and this one, you can see it actually had a notebook in it, and so you can see how the leather forms around, especially a hardcover notebook, if you put one in here. I had mentioned to Jennifer Harvey from Chic Sparrow that I didn't have very many A5 notebooks, and she actually put one that she wasn't using in here, so you can see how that's kind of formed around it. Pretty cool. Now, because the A5 is larger, we got to add an additional pocket to the top and pick a new color to add to it. You can see a little bit more evidence in the top left here of where that notebook was. And then let's take a look at this new pocket. So we ended up looking at a lot of options and went with this dark greenish blue. It has kind of gray tones to it. Here's what it looks like in natural light. This is right in my window. And the reason why we picked this was because it kind of blended the bright blue and the bright green without adding too many more new bright colors to it. It kind of looks like a night sky. That's what I was going for, and it was the closest option that we could find to that. My piece also has some fun character, some little like moles or freckles or something right here, so that's a normal thing that you might get on yours, or it might be wrinkly like the green on my B6 Slim. It might end up being more of a solid color, or you might have light to dark variation, all sorts of cool things you can end up with. So notebooks that fit in these folios, let's start with the smallest, the A6 size. This is a question that I got a lot. What kind of notebooks do I recommend for this? So the one I use most often is the Nanami Cafe Note in the A6 size. That's that one right there. I also bought this Hobonichi A6 notebook. It's not a planner, it just has grid pages on the inside. I haven't actually written in it yet, but it's an option. Along with the other Hobonichi Techo A6 options, except for the 5-year, and I'm going to show you what it looks like in this later, but that does not fit. I also have this other one that I don't think will fit that I wanted to show you, which is the A6 Leuchtturm, and that's because it's not a true A6, it's more of an A6 Slim, but I've got another option for that one that I'm going to show you as well. So let's start off by showing you how it fits the notebook that I'm currently using in this folio, which is the Nanami Cafe Note. You can get it on nanamipaper.com if they have it in stock currently. It has a lot of pages and they're Tomoe River paper, so they're very thin and then it puffs up when you use things on the pages. It fits in here really nicely. It's not too tight of a fit, so you can fit a slightly larger notebook, which is really nice. You can also see on kind of the cover pages on the inside that you do get some marks from the leather. It's not just from this notebook cover, it's also from the other covers that I've had it on, but that's the thing that you risk when you put something paper inside something that is leather. It can kind of absorb any of the oils or the dyes that are used in making the leather look the way that it does. So just a thing that happens when you use leather covers. And you can see that it fits it really nicely even when the pages start to puff up. So if you add a lot of collage, washi tapes, stickers, photos, anything like that. So you've got some space and the elastic can hold it shut. Now next, the Hobonichi notebook. This one is much thinner than the Cafe Note is, and I assume it's probably also thinner than the Hobonichi Techo A6, but I don't have one of those to compare it to. It might be more similar to the Avec, I don't know. Let us know in the comments if you've compared the different Hobonichi planners and notebooks that are out there, but you can see if you do have a thicker Hobonichi or one that you've filled with a lot of stuff, it will also fit in the folio because as you can see, it can accommodate a much thicker notebook than this. And honestly, because it is so thin, I'm expecting it to kind of be swimming around in this folio. And so that's what the video is for. We're going to test it out. And while you can tuck both the front and back covers into this folio, you don't necessarily have to. So like I really like the cover design on this notebook, so I'm going to leave it out. And that's what it looks like in here. It's actually not too bad, and I know that I probably will end up filling this with lots of different things, and so it probably will thicken up as I'm using it. So definitely an option. You have more space on the right side, as you can see here. There's a little bit more room on the edge, but that could also accommodate a pen maybe that you could tuck into the elastic. Speaking of pens, I did design a pen closure that holds 2 pens that can wrap around this A6 notebook. And we discussed the possibility of releasing it in multiple sizes so that it can accommodate the new Fairweather folio sizes, but we are not doing that at the moment. It's going to be in the future. So if you do end up buying the pen closure, keep in mind it's meant to fit the A6. It will not fit the Weeks. It will slip right off of it, and the larger sizes will have to stretch in order to fit that. Now, if you, like me, are a fan of the Hobonichi 5-year in the A6 size, sadly, this folio does not fit it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like so that you don't have to try and squeeze it in there. You can see that it is pretty close to the size of the Cafe Note when you look at it this way, but when you look at the spines, this is where the problem is. So you see how much bigger the spine is on the 5-year versus the Cafe Note. That's where we run into trouble. So before I even try and slip this into the pockets of the folio, I'm just going to wrap the folio around it to show you how much space is left. And you can see there really isn't any. You can see that little bits of the cover start to poke out on the right side there, and so that's the reason why it's not going to actually fit in this folio. But just for fun, I'm going to very carefully try and make it fit just to show you that it's not going to happen. If you do want to get a folio cover for your Hobonichi 5-year, I recommend checking out Sojourner. I have a folio, actually a tri-folio from them that fits, and I have been enjoying it, and I have a video where I show it off. But here you can see that there just isn't enough space for that spine and the covers to fully fit in the folio. It is the correct dimensions aside from the width. I think if it were a little bit wider in general, it would fit. But then it would be really too big for most of the other A6 notebooks. And so this isn't a great option if this is the notebook you wanted to use. And then I'm also going to show you this cool little A6 Slim Leuchtturm, which is one of my favorite notebooks. I've been using this for just like brainstorming and other creative ideas. It has a soft cover, which I really like, and then if you compare it to one of the more standard A6 sizes, it is much slimmer than that. It does fit, but it has a whole lot of extra space over on the right side, and I think it looks a little weird, so you could keep it in here. It just may not. It's not my preference. Where I keep this notebook is a pocket-sized traveler's notebook. This is also a Chic Sparrow, but it's an old retired one. This is the Matcha Tea House leather, and it actually is meant to fit these little field notes books. So it is taller than the field notes, but I really like the way that it fits when you put it onto one of these elastics. And that's what that looks like if you want a cover for this particular notebook. If you buy one of their current pocket-sized traveler's notebooks on chicsparrow.com, you can use my code Lauren Fairweather for 10% off. That will get you 10% off everything, not just the ones I designed, and I'll earn an additional commission for referring you. And so now we're going to jump up to the B6 Slim size, which is one of my favorites as well. I use this size a lot, and it is pretty similar to the A6 size, just taller. So if you want to have a little bit more space for writing, B6 Slim is a really nice option. So I use 2 different B6 Slim notebooks in my sort of everyday journaling experience. One is the Nanami Cafe Note, which I've showed on this channel a whole lot. I love that one. That was actually the first one that I got, and then I bought the A6 version when I started moving into smaller sizes. And then I have the MD notebook in B6 Slim, and this is the grid version of that. And this one's a little bit smaller, a little bit slimmer. This is what the 2 of those look like when I put them together. So the dimensions, width-wise, height-wise, pretty much the same, but the Cafe Note has a lot more pages in it, and the pages are also thinner. The MD notebook has thicker paper, but less of it. I do have the clear cover that is a separate purchase from the MD notebook, so I'm keeping it on there just to show you that it can fit if you have the clear cover on it. You can also put it in this folio without the clear cover. And that is what that looks like. You can see that it has a little bit of extra space in there, but if you really like to add a ton of collaging and other stuff to your notebooks and they chunk up really fast, you'll have plenty of room for the notebook to grow. You also get some lovely pull-up on the spine. It gets a little bit lighter where you bend the cover. And then for the B6 Slim Nanami Cafe Note, this one is very similar to the A6 version that I showed you earlier. It has this teeny tiny little 3.7 millimeter grid on it, which sometimes I write within that grid and sometimes I don't, but I like to have it there. And it is just a beautiful notebook. They make really lovely notebooks. Unfortunately, the original Tomoe River paper is no longer a thing. This one does still have original paper in it, and because it has almost 400 pages, I have not filled it up yet. I've been going in this one for a couple years. One thing to keep in mind with this size, B6 Slim, is that it doesn't really have standard dimensions, so certain brands that make notebooks for it can kind of vary as far as how slim it can be. But you can see that it fits in here really nicely. There's plenty of room for it to get thicker, and there's a little bit of room at the top and the bottom, so you don't have to really squeeze it in there like you do with some notebooks in certain folios. And this is the perfect, for me, not too big, not too small size. It gives me plenty of space to write. I don't ever really feel like I have trouble filling up the pages. And if you do like to travel with a notebook, it's a relatively portable size, especially compared to the next one, which is A5, and that feels a lot bigger to me. This is a relatively new size to me. I don't work in A5 super often, but I would like to start working in it more often, and the reason why is that so many brands make A5 notebooks. There are so many great ones out there. I have had less trouble finding A5 notebooks than I have for especially the B6 Slim. Those are a little bit tougher to find. And I feel like they're also more common than the A6 notebooks. So you can get a Hobonichi A5, you can get a Stylogy A5. There are so many good options out there, and I'm going to show you a whole bunch right now. And I'll get to take advantage of that extra pocket up at the top and plenty of writing or drawing space. So to start out, I've got the A5 MD notebook, which I use as my art journal. I have a video about that on my channel as well. I just really love all the details on these MD notebooks, and they come actually in all three of the sizes that I show today. I don't have an A6 one to show you, but they do make them, and they also make them in B6 Slim and A5 sizes. I also think MD paper is really lovely. It works for pretty much everything I've tried to put it through. It's not an especially thick paper, so, maybe not great for somebody who does art journaling and doesn't like to see through the paper at all. It doesn't personally bother me because I collage a lot on top of that in this notebook. Something to keep in mind, you may want a thicker paper if you are doing like some really heavy art journaling or painting or something like that. But I like the paper a lot. I've been enjoying it. I was used to it in the Traveler's Company Traveler's Notebooks, so it felt familiar to me, and it has more of a roomy fit in this particular folio, but I am not upset about that at all because I am planning on really thickening up these pages and stuffing as much as I can into them. This is like my messy journal, so I think it'll be kind of perfect. So right before I filmed this video, I thought I needed more options, so I ran out to the store and picked up two different Leuchtturm 1917 A5 sizes. The one on the left is a soft cover, and the one on the right is a hard cover. Now, if you've never seen these in person before, you would think the cover itself would be the only difference, but it's not. There are actually a lot more pages in the hardcover version than there are in the soft cover, so definitely keep that in mind. The soft cover one is even thinner than the MD notebook that I just showed you, so yeah, I really do like them in Traveler's Notebooks. I haven't tried to put one in an A5 Traveler's Notebook yet, but that may end up being my jam. And this is the hardcover next to the MD notebook. So the hardcover is much thicker than the MD notebook, and it's also a little less wide. You can see that the MD notebook comes out a little bit farther on the right side there. Both of these Leuchtturm notebooks have a lot of extras, so they're dot grid pages. The pages are numbered. There is an index page in the beginning, and then there's also a pocket in the back and a closure elastic, which I almost never use. Some people cut them off, and I've just been kind of flipping it onto the inside back cover, kind of around the pocket, and leaving it there. So let's go ahead and find out how this fits. Honestly, I feel like these folios were made to fit these larger hardcover A5 notebooks more than the slimmer softcover ones, just because they're larger, and if you don't accommodate that size potentially, then people will have to do a lot of work to get it to fit. And so you can see this fits really nicely, and when you have a hardcover notebook in a folio like this, it makes the leather feel stiffer. This is kind of a medium hand leather, so it's not especially floppy or especially sturdy. It's right in the middle, and when you have that cover underneath it, that makes it feel a lot more substantial, if that makes sense. I'm not used to having hardcover notebooks, so it felt like a big difference to me putting that in here. I'm personally very excited to start writing in this because I've heard very good things about this particular notebook, and adding the cover that I designed on top of it just feels so wonderful. Predictably, when you slide the soft cover in here, and I'm just going to put it in one of the pockets, there is a ton of leftover room in here, and I actually thought it might be kind of fun to see what would happen if I added a second notebook in here just on the front pocket. Now, these folios are mostly intended to be used with one notebook, whereas traveler's notebooks are intended to be used with multiple notebooks at once, as long as they all fit. But you can put one notebook in the front cover and one notebook in the back cover as long as they are thin enough and the right dimensions. And so this is what it looks like with the Leuchtturm Soft Cover A5 and the MD Notebook A5, which are both relatively slim notebooks. And you can see this fits really well in here. It also looks really nice. I love the look of a chunky notebook, and so you've got that as an option. The last notebook brand that I'm going to take a look at today is Archer and Olive, and I've seen these used a lot in the bullet journaling community especially. This is Jennifer's notebook that she sent to me, and she actually cut off some of the extras like the elastic and the pen loop, and that is a dot grid one. And then I have one of their sketchbooks, which I left all the extra pieces on. To me, the main thing that sets these notebooks apart is that the paper is very thick. It's 160 GSM paper, thicker than I usually prefer, and there are 160 pages in the Archer and Olive. So when you put it up next to the Leuchtturm hardcover, which has around 250 pages, you can see just how much thicker the Archer and Olive is, even though there are less pages to work with. Same sort of situation with the MD notebook. The MD notebook has around the same amount of pages, maybe slightly more than what you get in the Archer and Olive. It's also slightly wider than the Archer and Olive. But if you're working with paint or you really don't want any sort of ink to go through on the other side, having a thicker paper like this might be perfect for you. And having a bright white makes it so that you can see the ink colors in a truer fashion than on maybe cream colored paper. And it fits really nicely in this. It's not too big, which is really exciting. There are some bookmarks. They have lots of little extras on these notebooks, which is really nice. I haven't used fountain pens in an Archer and Olive notebook very much. I did a quick little test just now, and it's a little bit toothier of a paper. I prefer a smoother paper for my fountain pens, but I do like it for gel pens and pencil and micron felt tip drawing pens quite a bit. I also really like the foiling on the cover design, so if you wanted to get to see that more often, you could just not tuck the front cover into the folio and be able to see it more often. So that's it for the A5 size. I am really excited to hear in the comments below if you use any of these sizes. What are your favorite notebooks that I mentioned or that I didn't mention here? So if folks are looking for more options for these sizes, take a scroll through the comments and see what other people are recommending as well. I know that Stalogy makes at least an A6 and an A5, possibly more sizes. I haven't tried one of those yet. Definitely curious though. I know that Rhodia makes an A5, and I've heard really good things about their paper for fountain pens, and yeah, there's so much stuff out there. If you would like to buy one of the Chic Sparrow covers that I designed, you can head over to chicsparrow.com/Lauren_Fairweather, and right on the homepage at the moment there is a big banner that says Fairweather on it. If you would like a discount off of your whole order at Chic Sparrow, even if it's stuff that I didn't personally design, you can enter my code LaurenFairweather at checkout, and that will give you 10% off. I will also make an additional commission if you use that code, so I appreciate it very much. I'm really looking forward to reading your comments and finding out what your sizes are, whether you use one or a whole bunch like I do. I've been working on lots more fountain pen and journaling videos for you, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of them. I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you next time.